Barely impacting the community right now, right? But it can potentially, if we're raising taxes.
Right.
Raising taxes isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Or if you have to let people out.
Right.
Just because of where you're at.
And I was going to get to that point.
Yeah, both of those things are two big things. You just got to, I guess you got, what I say, you got to pick your poison. Do you want to pay? Do you want to increase the revenue, help increase the revenue to keep things safer for your community? Or do you not, and you want to just let them out and, let some of them out, to get your population down, so then you're not hit with a federal fine.
Healthcare Resource Center, free help for people on Medicare.
Ricky Herring, County Commissioner for District 3.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Good, man.
Going good.
So tell me, what do you do as a commissioner?
So we actually vote on budgets and manage the budget for the county. We have several entities within the county that we supply the money for, more or less. Actually, the taxpayers supply the money, but we figure out a way to make it to where each entity within the county has enough money to operate.
Okay. And so what else do you do? Or is this like work just kind of builds up and then you do your voting and your allocations? Yeah.
So every, at least twice a month, we have what we call a business meeting, which is on a Thursday. And then following that on a Monday, we will have our commission meetings, which is the voting meeting.
Right.
So we have those meetings and we talk about those things and what's going to be on the agenda and what's on the agenda, and have the opportunity to discuss it, talk about what we're going to be doing. And then, of course, leading up to that Monday, it gives us time to really think about things before we go and vote on it, and make sure we make a good, sound decision on our vote.
So is it, like, for the county, is it kind of a scaled down version of the Congress for United States, where you get like these huge bills and there's like 1,000 pages and people are trying to sneak stuff in? And does it work like that, or is it a little more cut and dry?
It's a little more cut and dry. It ain't that bad. That's a lot that they go through with the Congress and the Senate, the U.S. Congress and Senate. And of course, with your state delegation, and your state lawmakers and your state senators, they have a lot more to deal with because it's a larger area they're dealing with. But
right.
That is one thing that we have to deal with a lot, is dealing with our delegation and lawmakers in the state to be able to get anything done within the commission.
Why? What on earth prompted you or motivated you to be a county commissioner? Well,
I was one of those growing up. I grew up in Cottonwood, Alabama, and was an old country boy, more or less. And, you sit back and you see things happening and you're like, man, why is that going on? Why are they doing that? Why are they raising this tax? Or why are they making this law? Or why are they pushing to make this happen? And I got to a point in my life, of course, after, many years of growing in the Lord, and as I still am now, I got to thinking, I've always been the type person that's a show me person, and I wanted to get in there, and I said, you know what, I need to get in there myself and see what it's about and see what kind of difference I can make. So really, it just, the Lord led me that way.
Yeah.
And, I ran for office and wound up getting into it. And of course, I'm in my second term, not running again, and we've been accomplished a lot of things, since I've been in, but even prior, commissions, but prior to that, has completed a lot and done a lot for the county.
Do you have an idea as to like how much longer you're going to want to stay a commissioner?
Well, I'm not running again.
Oh, you're not?
I didn't run again this time. Yeah, okay. Ashley M. Finger will actually be your next District 3 commissioner.
Okay.
And he'll come in November. So my last meeting will be at the end of October of this year.
How does it feel going out?
It feels good. I mean, I've accomplished a lot of things. So yeah. I'm proud, and there's been a lot of things done and accountability held, and there has been different things within my district that has been completed, and also different things within the county has been completed. Creating jobs is a big thing for me. I believe that's what you call sustainable income, is you create jobs. That's going to create more revenue. That's going to create some tax revenue. It's going to create property tax revenue because people want to come stay here, work here, live here, raise their families here. So that has been a big thing. And seeing different industries and distribution centers and jobs created, here within in the past 8 years.
What would you say are like some of your most favorite accomplishments? And like, be specific, right? Okay. Like, was it, the initiative to fund the ball fields and the leisure services for the county, or like, what were some of the highlights of your commissioner career? Well,
I would say that was one of the big things too, is, I played ball coming up. Baseball was my sport. I enjoyed baseball.
Right.
And then, of course, I had kids coming up, and now they're grown. I got grandkids coming up, so I think if you got somewhere for your kids to play and to be able to enjoy time and build relationships, build some camaraderie with other people in your area, that it just, hopefully they'll stay around and continue to keep generation to generation going. But those ball fields and having those ball fields, it teaches discipline. A lot of people don't realize that, but on a ball field, you're taught discipline and how it is to earn something.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we forgot about that, how to earn something and what to do. It shouldn't be just play, just because I am who I am.
Right.
You got to earn it.
Right.
It's sort of like in our jobs. We got to earn what we get.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. But I'd say some of the accomplishments in my district that I'm proud of is, there was over at Rehoboth baseball field, the high school baseball field, there was a parking lot over there that they had, and it was just run down, potholes everywhere and so forth. And it used to be a, what they call LCWF, which is a land water conservation grant that was given like in 1978. And it was by the federal government. So really there was nothing ever done with that property because you couldn't get it done because the federal government's the one that gave the money to it. So you had to, so after I got looking into it and doing my research, of course, is one of my full-time jobs, is being in the sheriff's office. So
right.
Whenever I got in there, I started doing my research and finding out, hey, what would it take to make this place better and what would it take to make it safer, So, of course, it took taking pictures and showing in rainy days, going out there taking pictures, showing what the potholes looked like, mud holes, how unsafe it was. And, it wound up becoming a nice little parking lot over there for the Rehoboth School District, as well as for the baseball field. So, and it took a lot of work to get to that. It wasn't easy. You had to start there, and then you had to go through a DECA and get a DECA, which is the state of Alabama where they hold a purse for the money, more or less.
Right.
And going through those folks, going through the legislators, and then getting it up to the federal government to where you could get approval to do anything with it. So, worked on that for probably a little over a year before we was able to come to an agreement with the town of Rehoboth and with the school system where we all pitched in some money for the material. It didn't just the county didn't eat all of it.
Right.
So we all pitched in money for the material. And then once we all did that and I got everybody on board with that, in which they were in agreement because it was going to help this town of Rehoboth. It was going to help the school as well. They got on board and we was able to collaboratively do that together and be able to get that parking lot done. So that was something great. For 30 or 40 years, people have been trying to do it, is my understanding, or figure out a way, and they could never get it done. So, and then another project was over there off of Edens Road, with Trelawney Drive. That road hadn't been repaved in probably 30 to 40 years. Mm-hmm. And that road was very dilapidated, almost showing dirt in areas, So, and it wasn't a main road, it was off-road, but it needed some attention. I mean, there are people that live back in there and so forth that needed to be able to get home safely. School buses had to go through there. So, I was able to get that done, and get that road resurfaced and repaved back in there in that subdivision. So that's another big accomplishment because nobody was able to do it within 30 or 40 years either. So I know it seems small, but to me, that's something big.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily creating jobs or anything like that, but at least it made the road safer, made things safer for the kids, the parents, the grandparents getting out of ball fields. And, that was something big to me. And
yeah, I think it's one of those things too, where you're in that service position, right? Like you didn't choose to be a county commissioner for the guts and the glory of it, right?
Right.
Obviously you didn't do it because you're addicted to adrenaline. Like you're getting that from the Houston County Sheriff's Department side.
Yeah.
But even if it's just, I just repaved a parking lot. Mm-hmm. How much money and grief did you spare families from? Because they hit a pothole and now they got to replace a tire, or they did something worse and damaged a rim or damaged the axle or the strut. And now it's, hey, we probably need to file for bankruptcy because we have this damage from a bad pothole. And now I hate this town because, of this, bad day that we had because we couldn't repave the parking lot. You know what I'm saying? So, So kudos to you. I mean, you don't really know what the ripple effect is. But, one thing I've learned from doing this type of stuff and talking to business owners is that like these decisions are just the whispers, but the ripple effect is so great and so wide. You're eliminating a lot of potential problems for people. And that's something that, it's tremendous, man. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you.
Now, how long have you been with the Houston County Sheriff's Department?
So I'm going on my 16th year now.
Okay. You think you like it?
I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy
around?
serving. Yeah, I enjoy serving people, man. It's just, it's great to be able to help out. Now, there's a price that comes with that. A lot of times, it's just sort of like when, and I know what Jesus did for us, I would never compare to that. But when you do what's right and you strive to do what's right, there are people you run across sometimes that you might have to arrest people, their families or even a family member sometimes or whatever it is. And, it's difficult, but, Jesus gave us the way when he come here to show us exactly how we need to do things. And, not saying I'm perfect either. I need to be held accountable, but accountability is a big thing that needs to be done, I think, throughout, even in the law enforcement world, through the politics, through whatever it is. Accountability is important, but it's just a matter of how you hold those people accountable too as well.
So you used to be my county commissioner. We lived over there by Harley Davidson at Dothan. And as a matter of fact, your cousin, Heath, was my neighbor.
Right.
And he told me a little bit about you. And you also go to Memphis Baptist Church too, right?
That's correct.
Casey Camp was also my neighbor. And the Camp family, I mean, his mom, Deb, and his dad, Mr. Bobby.
Yes.
They, the Camp family owns JM Electric Supply, and they're probably one of the loveliest families I've ever met.
No doubt.
And I remember just like sitting there, and Casey was like, "Yeah, did you hear what happened? Ricky Herring's running for county commissioner." I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" And, he explained to me, I was like, "Well, why should I vote for Ricky aside from just you saying you're voting for him?" And he's like, "Well, we go to church with him, and he's a solid Christian guy." I'm like, "Okay."
It gives me chill bumps.
Good enough for me.
Yeah.
And then I forgot how we got on the subject because this was like a long time ago. But I remember he'd saying, like, "Oh, yeah, that's my cousin." I was like, "Hey, Casey said he's a solid Christian." "Oh, yeah, absolutely." Yeah. So, kudos to you.
Well, man, I give God all the glory. Not me,
absolutely.
Man. And of course, my foundation is my Lord and Savior, but I can't go without saying my wife, Andrea. She's part of that foundation. God's first, but she sort of holds it together a lot of times. And you talk about accountability. She holds me accountable, and it just works out. Just God's put it together, and it's nice to have a partner, a wife that will continually support you, encourage you, and also correct you when you need to be corrected, and help you along the way. And as far as a helpmate goes, I couldn't ask for no better. My wife is solid.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite highlights of your career with the Houston County Sheriff's Department?
Well, I when you say highlights, I'm not sure that there's highlights because, when you think about it is I've worked all kind of cases, from homicide cases all the way down to, your normal thefts or your misdemeanor crimes and those type things. So, it's never any fun to have to arrest somebody. Now, somebody, if they ever think it's just fun to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. You got to enjoy your job, but it's it's sad in a lot of ways sometimes. But I think as a law enforcement officer, you have to you've got to have a fine line of being able to hold that person accountable, but do it in the correct way, just like you do anybody else that you're talking with, your kids or whatever it is, of holding them accountable, but still do it with respect and compassion and empathy, and still try to do it the right way. And those people, most adults, they realize that, hey, they're doing their job. And so it's I guess if you say highlights, I guess some of my highlights would be promotions I've gotten. I would say how the sheriff believes in me, and there's and other people within the agency, and we got a great agency and a lot of good men and women that work there, and they have the same standards of wanting to do what's right and those type things. So it's it's just a blessing to be able to see what you can do for the public out here, the citizens, the victims. You enjoy whenever you get those pieces of the puzzle put together.
Yeah, and
you're able to solve that crime. But once you solve the crime, it don't stop there. It's also happens. It stops whenever you get to court. But now a lot of times in our job as law enforcement, we can present the cases and we can make a case, but we can't prosecute it. That's up to the prosecutors to do that. But we also have to lean on them a lot of times to help us. Hey, I think you got a solid case, and to let us know, hey, this ain't going to work or it's not going to work. So, and the DA, Russ Goodman, does a great job of that, and his team does as well. So, highlight wise, I just think that being able to do this job for 16 years and stay focused on my Lord and Savior and remember that He is always watching what I do and what I say and how I act and how I react, it's probably the highlight of knowing that He's always there with me and He's my shield and my protector.
You just seem too good to be true, man.
Well,
that's awesome.
I don't want people to receive that. And I had a grandmama. Her name was Othel Herring, was my dad's mom. And many years ago, I remember sitting at her table when I was like 12 years old, and I'd go cut a grass. She'd pay me to cut a grass, had a lawnmower, those things. She lived out in the Grangerburg area, and people would call her phone constantly and ask her to pray for them. And one day I was sitting there, and she cooked some homemade biscuits and stuff, and I asked her, I said, Mama, why do people always call you to pray for them? Why do people always do that? And she said, well, because they need somebody to pray for them and help them and show them some compassion and empathy and love on them, like Jesus loved on us. And
right.
I said, well, Mama, why are they calling you though? Why are they calling you? And she said, son, I'm not perfect, but there are those people that talk the talk. There are those people that know the Bible. They know what God intends. But there are those people that walk the walk, that show it in their actions and in their witness and what they do. And she says, I try to show it in my actions and my witness. And that's carried on with me for a long time in my life. It's what you do. It's not what you talk about. Mm-hmm. It's what you do and how you react to things and how you handle things that makes the difference when people see Jesus through you.
That's impressive.
So, that was one of the lessons when I was 12 years old that really took to heart. But she meant a lot to me.
Wow. I mean, for you to be able to hold on to that, and I mean, I've met a lot of police officers and deputies, and I mean, it's a tough job.
Yeah.
That is, I remember listening to like the Sean Ryan show. And have you ever heard or watched the Sean Ryan show? Okay. So he's like a former Navy SEAL and turned into a podcaster, and he would have like these, high speed law enforcement guys, military operators, things like that. And I think I forget what episode it was, but he had a police officer on there, and they brought up a very interesting statistic that the average police officer has more like PTSD triggering events as a police officer than almost any soldier or military operator. Because you guys see the horrible stuff in the community.
Yeah.
And then you got to get up and do it again in 18 hours. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And it's like, how do you process that kind of stuff? And a good friend of mine, he was a firefighter for Dothan, and he was also a pastor. And his name is Mike Shiver. One of the most.
I went to school with Mike.
Did you? Okay. Oh, that's right. He did go to Cottonwood.
Yes.
Okay.
We graduated together.
Okay. And I just remember some of the stories that he would tell me, and I'm like, you have to be born again in order to be functioning. Because again, you just see the worst of the worst in the community. So that's awesome that you're clinging to Christ and you're abiding in the vine. So this way you can not be trampled by the enemy.
That's right. When I tell people a lot of times this, and me and my pastor, Brother Jim Tate at my church, we're good friends, but he's also my shepherd, and my pastor. We relate a lot together because in the world of preachers and pastors that pastor a church, people's always coming to you with problems and want you to fix their problems or help them with their problems.
Right.
But nobody believes that you have issues. A lot of times. Nobody believes you're real. You know what I mean?
Right,
in the law enforcement world and as a pastor, the people think that, you're fixing my problems. You shouldn't have any problems.
Right.
And the preacher's the same way. Nobody thinks you should have any problems or have any issues or anything to talk about. So, it's I relate a lot law enforcement with a lot of pastors in the world because they have to deal with the same stuff, and there are some good people in congregations. Don't get me wrong. There are people that are just lost and people that are learning about the Lord and they're Christians. There's a lot of, but it does take a special, I'd say person sometimes, but I couldn't do what I do in the law enforcement world if it wasn't for my Lord and Savior. Yeah. I would be a broken man and down but I have to realize too that I can't control the sin in the world. I can just try to make a difference where I can.
Gosh, man, that's awesome. I think a lot of the times pastors are expected to almost be perfect,
Yeah.
right? But then all of a sudden it's like, well, hold on, you're too perfect. What do you think you are? You think you're perfect? So
Right.
it's like that double-edged sword,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a very interesting take. I've never heard of that example before, though.
Yeah.
I've also heard a lot of the times that like pastors are lonely,
Yeah.
and it's just because like they maybe for that reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they can't let people in because people don't really want to know that, hey, you're a pastor and you've got problems too. Like we're all going through, it's like we all forget that we're all going through the same sanctification process once we're born again.
Absolutely.
And everybody, it's not linear. It's like popcorn, we're all going to be doing different things at different times. And we tend to forget that.
Right.
So it's like, oh, I've been a Christian for X amount of years. Well, you should be a lot more angelic.
Right.
You should be a lot more perfect, closer to Jesus than I am as a, born again Christian for the last 6 months or whatever the case is, So that's interesting. So now you also have, you have a very interesting, at least to me, you have a very interesting business. Tell me about State Line.
All right. So State Line and I gave credit where credit's due there. My dad, Ronnie Herring, he had a vision of seeing a farm market, and he has a business up in Level Plains area that called Big and Small Storage Solutions that he's had for a while.
Okay.
And he sells portable buildings, metal buildings, and he does fireworks as well. So he is he had a vision and saw this property down there one day. He said, "Son, I've got a an opportunity if you and Andre are interested, And he says, "Let me tell you what my vision is and what my thoughts are." And so, of course, he told me about it and told me, he says, like Sweet Creek going up towards Montgomery and Todd's Farms out towards Headland and
right.
Some of these other places, Durban Farms on 65. He was telling me about a farm market. He said, "There's nothing like this around here, really." And he said, if we could diversify it and have a farm market and have a produce stand and have a fireworks stand and have the buildings to sell, you'd be diversified, and I think you would do well with it. And he said, if you could get some animals, and I threw in there about animals, Dad, if we could get some animals, to petting animals, like have a petting and feeding zoo and, maybe build a playground and a pavilion to have birthday parties and do those type things. So that's all in the process and it's coming. Once we got started on it and started moving with it, I saw my dad's vision, and we started working on it, and then things coming together. And of course, my wife with her a vision of decorating skills and so forth inside the farm market and doing different things. It's just come along and it's been good. It's not. I ain't saying I'm making all kind of money right now. Absolutely not. But it takes a while for a business to get up off the ground and going.
Right.
But I think Houston County has an opportunity, with this business because there's nothing else really like it that's just uniquely that way, to where it's the one-stop shop, in other words.
It's kind of like a roadside attraction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I never really compared it to Sweet Creek on the way up to Montgomery or Todd Farms, in Headland. It's just, but I think you hit the nail right on the head that it eventually can be something like Sweet Creek.
Yes.
For us, whenever we go up to Montgomery, like it's kind of like, hey, we gotta stop at Sweet Creek.
Yeah. That's right.
And even if it's just for a break to stretch the legs and the kids are running around in the playground, and then all right, we gotta get some ice cream, and so it's just one of those roadside attractions that, whenever we go to like the Alabama Shakespeare Festival,
right.
Which we normally don't go there unless it's for a Christmas carol. Mm-hmm. We always have to stop there.
Right.
You guys can be that attraction.
Right.
How many people, even if you're coming from Dothan, like, we could stop at State Line for some ice cream.
Right.
Or you're going down to the beach during the summertime. It's like, we could stop and get some fireworks or some sparklers or something.
Or even some watermelons, something to carry with you, tomatoes.
Yeah, there you go. So. Or even if it's just like, hey, we should stop and use the bathroom.
Right.
And stretch our legs. Now, I will tell you this. I stopped at State Line, and I think you were there with your grandkids, and I stopped in and got some, like a scoop of ice cream, had a sweet tooth, popped in, And here we go. And I remember I was like, oh, I got to use the bathroom. Your bathroom was probably one of the cleanest bathrooms I have ever been to.
I got a story to go with that.
Okay.
I got a story to go with that. So my wife, whenever we're doing this place and all that, and we're thinking about how to decorate the outside and stuff, I'm going, I'm a guy. I'm going there and I'm just going to we're going to put a toilet, a sink, and hey, have a good day. That's where you go use the bathroom. She said, no. You got to have clean and cute bathrooms.
Yep.
I said clean and cute. So I said, okay. So, of course, during my research of trying to figure out what kind of stuff to get, I'd talked to Reed Ingram with Sweet Creek Farm Market a few times.
Yeah.
And he owns
Reed's
that
a good
market.
guy.
Yeah. And I talked to him a few times, and he said, Ricky, make sure of one thing. He said, make sure that your bathrooms are cute and clean.
That is funny.
And so anyway, so we made sure my wife decorated them and then did that, with what we had. And it ain't nothing as fancy as what Reed has, know, there. But we're going to build up to that one day, hopefully, good Lord willing. But she said, I told you so. And everybody that's gone in there, especially all the ladies, has come out and said, your bathrooms are so cute. This is so nice. This is where we're going to stop at from now on. So I said, well, I guess I have been proven wrong. That you just don't just put a bathroom in a business and just think that, hey, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I remember hearing on some podcasts where people were talking about, they're talking to restaurant owners, and some of those restaurant owners is like, aside from the kitchen, my top priority is making sure that bathroom is clean.
Yes.
Because if the bathroom is clean, then it kind of all just trickles down from there in terms of cleanliness.
Right.
Like if that bathroom's clean, everything else is going to be clean or cleaner than the average place.
Yeah.
And so when I was working for Wiregrass DPF Cleaning and Recor, I was always on the road. With me always being on the road, I had to use the bathroom, and I was never at the shop.
Right.
Or almost never at the shop. And so, I would drive an extra 5 miles if I knew that a clean bathroom was going to be at that place. And even now, because of that experience, when I'm traveling with my family, I'll look at the gas gauge. I'm like, okay, we need gas in 100 miles, but in 50 miles, I know that there's a really clean bathroom, so we're going to go ahead and stop there.
There might be a Buc-ee's close by.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I went to Buc-ee's for the first time at the one in Auburn.
Yes, that's nice.
And it was overwhelming. Like I walked in and I was like, oh, I got to get out of here.
Yes.
Because it was just way too much.
We stopped there yesterday on the way carrying my daughter to the airport and going back to Brazil where she's on a mission trip. We stopped there yesterday, and that's the first time my wife had been in a Buc-ee's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she was like, oh my goodness, look at this.
Yeah.
I said, I hope State Line gets this way one day.
Were the bathrooms cute and clean enough for her?
They were cute and clean enough for her. Yes. Yep.
That's funny. Well, and I know going back to you being a county commissioner, kind of goes hand in hand with you being a captain for the Houston County Sheriff's Department. What prompted me, my interest was piqued and my curiosity was just going off the rails. You made a Facebook post talking about the prisons in Houston County. Tell me more about that.
Okay. So right now, I'll tell you today, the population is about 586. We are able to house at Houston County Jail 397. 397 will be 100% capacity. Now, they built that new jail back in 2001.
Okay.
And, of course, he was doing the same thing back in 2001 at the old jail where it was getting overpopulated and right at the maximum and so forth. So they built that jail and, of course, added, I think, 200 more beds to this new one. And so here we are in 2026, and, we've started probably in the past 2 or 3 years, seeing the population of the jail increase rapidly.
Now and I did an immense amount of research by prompting in or typing in one prompt in a chat GPT, right? Which that's sarcasm, by the way.
Yeah.
But number one, what do you guys do? Like, where are all those inmates that are over capacity?
So we have recently purchased a bunch of what they call cots and beds.
Okay.
So you're just having to put them in the rooms and where you can. and provide them with a mattress and a cot.
Okay.
So they're all still there, but they all have somewhere to sleep and lay their head right now.
Okay. So they're all just in the same,
just in a different area. There's different pods, different things like that. So you have a female pod, and then you have other male pods. You've got a medical, what so-called medical pod that we, don't have enough space for medical or whatever it is. So there's all kinds of, different places, but they're all just, like I said, they have cots and the mattresses to go with them.
And so you're just cramming them in there.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, because the last thing you want to do is start releasing people and turning people loose that, there's consequences for your actions, and you don't want to just turn people loose. And I think you've probably seen that, if you followed it some in the state a few years ago. I mean, they released some sex offenders and things like that,
That blows my mind when people release sex offenders.
Yeah, but it's because the overcrowding was happening.
Yeah, but can't you release someone, a different category of people?
And there were some of those released too. There were some released like drug dealers or
you can release a different group of people, like white collar crime individuals, maybe like non-violent or not detrimental to society. Are those guys getting released as well? There's some of those, yes, but you don't have as many of those in there. Gotcha.
I mean, because you got probation, you got those type things. That a lot of times they do the probation deal. So.
And so those people who are like more violent or more detrimental to society, like sex offenders and drug dealers, is those people getting released that fall under those categories, are they being released because like at random, or is it kind of like merit based? Like they've been.
I have to be honest, I don't know how that works. I couldn't tell you exactly how that works.
Okay. So why is it that our Houston County jail is overpopulated?
I put it too because of how much we've grown in this county. I mean, you think 2010, 2020, I want to say the census was almost 10,000 more people.
Okay.
But you got to also look at the people that travel here for work, for shopping, for things like that. I mean, there's a lot of hundreds of thousands of people that travel through here daily, that don't live here in Houston County.
Right.
So, and that's grown as well. So, as your population increases, crime's going to increase some.
Right.
And I think that a lot of that has to do with that. And of course, through the years from 2001 till now, 25 years later, in the past, we have not prepared for those things to take place.
Okay.
So it's almost like having you're dealing with a budget and you have your air conditioning units, your big company, you got air conditioning units, it's going to go out eventually in 15 years, your lifespan's 15 years.
Right.
You need to be putting some money back for those things.
Mm-hmm.
But those things, it's hard to do that because I'll tell you, the county, we live, you hear people living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
When in the county, you don't get revenue for you to sit back and hold money. We live here in Houston County. Every bit of money we make is put out and appropriated out, and it's spent. So we got a $63 million budget. You're looking at a $55 million expansion on the jail. Mm. It don't take long to figure out that, hey, that's almost impossible without some help from your state and federal partners.
Right.
Trying to figure out how we can make this happen.
So the county operates on a $63 million budget.
That's correct.
Does that go up every single year? Does that go down?
It goes up some. It just depends on how your revenue is and what your property taxes. Now, mostly the county, we deal with property taxes. That's how we survive.
So what's the biggest percentage of revenue for the county? Is it the property taxes? Okay. Mm-hmm. And so what's second to that?
Second would probably be, I think it'd be probably the 1 cent sales tax that was put in place in 94. But that 1 cent sales tax was put into place for your road and bridge, for your roads, your infrastructure and your roads. But we only get a 33 1/3 of that 1 cent to our general fund. The other 33 1/3 goes to the city school system, and the other 33 1/3 goes to the county school system. So we don't get a 1 cent total sales tax in the county for us to be able to operate and do those things, in which a 1 cent sales tax in the county today would bring in somewhere around $19 to $20 million a year.
So why not just add another 1 cent sales tax?
Because by law, you got to go through your delegation and through your state lawmakers and so forth like that to be able to add those type things. But we can't add anything on the general fund side because we're already maxed out at 7%. So, and by law, that's all you can have. So it's very, very, very difficult.
So you guys just kind of regulated yourself into a corner.
Well, yes, the past commissions, whatever you want to say, is sort of regulated yourself in the corner.
Just not necessarily having that foresight of, hey, there's going to be problems.
That is correct.
Things are going to grow, and there's going to be answers to problems that you're not really thinking about. See, I come from California.
Yeah.
And so I think
a lot of money out in California.
A lot. I mean, but you're also heavily taxed in California. Yeah. And I am not one of those people that's like, throw the tea into the harbor when politicians talk about increasing taxes.
Right.
I'm more of why. What can we do? Like, is there something where you're eliminating waste, right? Like, do you know how much waste there is? Right. I mean, a $62 million budget, that's a huge budget. I'm sure that there are a ton of expenses that justify that $62 million budget. Sure. But given what we've learned from President Trump coming back into office and having Elon Musk head up Doge and then discovering all of this waste, right? Like, it has to trickle all the way from the top down to the bottom where there is going to be waste, right? My question is, like, how much waste is there? And if we are going to raise taxes, what is it going to be used for?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can we rob Peter to pay Paul? You know, can we move things around in the budget? And that my mind goes that way, because it's like, for my family budget, if there's an unexpected expense, or hey, we want to go ahead and do something different. Right. Like, we want to spend some time at the beach. How can we rob Peter to pay Paul, or, you know, go out and make some more money, or sell some things?
Or where can we cut at to better make this happen?
Where can we cut, or where can we grow some revenue?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and I understand that there are some people that are on a fixed income, but how many households have things just kind of lying around that they can sell
at a garage sale or something
and make $250, and now you can go to the beach for a night and clean out your stuff. You know what I'm saying? So for me, when it comes to the jail, I mean, how do you fix this problem?
Well, you know, fixing the problem, we got to figure out how to generate the revenue. We got to get the revenue, you know, to be able to do it. And as far as waste goes, you know, personally for me, I don't see there's waste anywhere. That every money that we give out, we're audited every year by the state. Okay. So we're audited by auditors that come in and say, okay, you're misusing money, you're not misusing money. And since I've been a commissioner, there hasn't been one that's come in and said you're misusing money.
That's awesome.
So, but is there other place you can allocate money that you might allocate money somewhere else? And my thing is as a county commissioner, our job is the taxpayers pay their money, the property tax, so forth, for infrastructure, which is your roads, those type things, and for your public safety, and for your EMS, fire, those type things. People pay their taxes for them to come and be able to be there and be able to take care of those things. So it's not, like you said earlier on the roads, it's better to have good paved roads and roads that are to be able to ride to. Absolutely. It's not damaging your cars or whatever, but it's also good to have those for your police, your fire, and your ambulance to be able to get to you in a safe and quick manner to save your life or to try to help you in the way you need to be helped. Right. And vice versa on that. You know, you got to have your public safety, you know, and that includes your EMS, fire, and law enforcement that understands how your roads work and that how important it is them roads need to be paved. But, you know, a lot of times that's why I pay my taxes. I pay my taxes because I want some good roads to ride on. I want public safety. I want to make sure EMS, fire, and police can get to me and get to my family or get to my grandparents or my parents or whatever it is. But that's the main thing that we pay our taxes for, and which benefits all of us. But there are some money that we allocate to other places, such as some nonprofits.
So, like outside of the county?
But no, when I say outside the county, yes, outside the county. So that they're in our county, they're nonprofits in our county.
Gotcha.
So, like say if it's a Wiregrass Hope Group or the Wiregrass Angel House or the House of Ruth, some of these places that are nonprofits, we do give some money and allocate some money to those areas to try to help those foundations be able to assist and help the victims and the people around here that are needing help and so forth. So the only place to really cut at is there. We could cut jobs, we could do that but nobody wants to cut jobs. I mean, what kind of efficiency is that going to be for the county if you start cutting your law enforcement, or you're cutting your roads, you're cutting your taglines, or whatever it is? How efficient is that going to be?
Right.
So I think we just gotten to a point in our area and in this county that we have grown so much, and what we've done, we've just not kept up with the growth, and not been able to keep up with the growth. We're the lowest property tax in the state of Alabama, here in Houston County.
What's the tax rate?
It's like I want to say it's like a 5 mil or something like that.
What does that mean?
5 mil. So like $100,000.
Okay.
It would be $500.
Oh,
like a tax rate. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. I see what you're saying.
And I'm not saying that's it exactly. I'm just saying it's somewhere. It gives you an example.
Yeah.
So, it's
so if your property is worth, $1 million, you're looking at $5,000 in a tax
something
bill.
like
Okay.
And that'd give you an idea. That's
right.
So, but however, I do know that hurts you farmers. That hurts a lot of people with land and things like that, because they have to pay more because they own more. But we all have to pay our fair share. But I'm not saying that is the route to go. I'm just saying that that's the only thing that, and I don't know if we could do that with the general fund already at 7%, if we can go to that. I have asked the questions and trying to see what our options are. And I think that's one of the things that, because we're at 7% in our general fund, we can't do that, but, and to me, and at the end of all of it, I'm not about, if I can have, the only thing that we can raise a tax for without the vote of the people, I want to vote of people on everything that we can. And when it comes down to the tax rates and so forth, people need a right to be able to say it's okay to do that. You vote on it and do it. But there is a law that you can vote on a sales tax for the school systems. So that's the only thing that we can raise a tax on.
What does that mean?
So in other words, we can go in as a commission, sort of like the city of Dothan, they can go in and vote on a sales tax today without the vote of the people. And they did that back in 2010, I think it was.
Okay.
Where they did a 1 cent sales tax, which helped them tremendously. But we can't do that without it going through our delegation and through the state lawmakers saying, okay, you can put it to the vote of the people. Then the people get an opportunity to vote on it. But now for the schools, we can, and it's my understanding, that you can raise a tax, a 1 cent sales tax, just for the schools to help the schools out. So without the vote of the people.
So a 1 cent sales tax, but that money has to go to the schools.
That's right, period.
Would that offset any expenses for you guys?
No. It would not help us a bit. It would not help us a bit. Unless they're able to work something out through the law or some way else, they could work those things out. I don't know. That's still in, all that stuff's being discussed, trying to figure out what we can do, what we can't do, those type things. And, the law is really not, it holds us accountable as commissions in the state of Alabama, that we're responsible for the maintenance, the resurrection of the jail, and making sure it is properly maintained. And if we don't properly maintain that, and we are found that we are not doing as we should and supposed to, trying to get everything up to par where it needs to be, we can be charged with a Class A misdemeanor and a fine as a commissioner. Like $500.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm not one that I said it in the commission meeting, and I'll say it again. I'm not going to jail for anybody.
Right.
I'll go to jail for what I do, but I'm not going to risk that. But there's a lot of laws that people don't know about and things that we're bound to. And as the counties within the state of Alabama, I would say, we are very at an unfair advantage to be able to get anything done. We have a disadvantage, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
We have a disadvantage.
Yeah.
But we have to work closely with our delegation. We have to work closely with all those to be able to get anything done, a lot of times of this nature, to be able to get them on board with us to understand why we're trying to do what we're having to do.
What would it take for you to get to the answers of these questions? of the prison population, right? Or that overpopulation. No. So of the prison population that's in there right now, the 587, you said?
586.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 586. How many of those individuals are like awaiting trial? How many of those individuals are serving their sentence in those jails, like their long-term, residents?
Yeah.
How many of those people can be put somewhere else? Like, do you have to serve your time in the county jail where you commit the offense? Is that, I guess I'm shooting all these questions at you. So let's go to question one. How many of those people are awaiting trial?
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay.
But there are some waiting trial.
So,
now we can move on to the question of how many's in our jail possibly that need to be moved to a state prison or whatever it is that's already been convicted of the crime.
Okay.
And that probably somewhere percentage, around 20 to 30.
20 to 30%.
Yeah, well, not 30%, 20 to 30 people.
20 to 30 people. Okay.
Yeah, it's not that many. So they don't.
That's not a lot.
Yeah. So we and that's on a, I say it's on a regular basis a lot of times. I mean, once they're convicted, it takes time for the state DOC to be able to come get them and get them out and move them to a prison.
But is that outside of your control to speed up that process?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't have none of them.
So
we can try to encourage it, but that's up to them when they want to come.
What's the percentage of people that are in the prison now that are serving their sentence because they were convicted? And
I don't know that number, but there are some.
Okay.
And you go back to 2016 when the lawmakers made a law. They started these Class D felonies. You had Class A, Class B, and Class C felonies.
Okay.
Then they started Class D felonies.
Yeah.
And when Class D felonies, you can serve a year time up in the county jail. So, if they're convicted, that person can serve up to a year's time in the county jail on a Class D felony.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of increased some of our population.
Okay.
Because of that as well.
Okay.
So
I know we're not going to solve the problem on this podcast.
But I wish we could.
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious, right? Like you have an issue, right? Mm-hmm. How is this impacting the community?
Don't know that it is impacting the community yet.
Okay.
But if a federal judge comes down at some point and says, "Hey, you're gonna have to get this, this, and this, or you're gonna have to do this, this, and this," if
and this, and this, you mean making the prison bigger?
Yeah, okay. Making it bigger. Because they could come down and say, "Hey, you're gonna have to make this happen."
Do you guys have enough land to expand?
Yeah, matter of fact, we've got a survey done. We've already got an architect in line.
Okay.
An architect in line. So, we've got enough land to make that happen where the jail is now.
So what's the issue? What's holding you guys up?
Money. We got to figure out how we're going to make the money, how we're going to make it happen. I mean, $55 million on a $63 million budget.
Do you have to pay it all up front? Like, what are the
No, I mean, you can do
terms?
bonds, you can do those type things.
You
but
can do
you got to
bonds,
figure
you
out.
can't take out a loan?
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's a bond. It's like a loan,
Okay.
I mean, you do a bond and you pay that bond back.
And so is that something that you can just get from your local bank, like All In Federal Credit Union or Mid-South Bank or Regions to? No,
and I couldn't tell you exactly how that worked, but no, you can't go to those banks and just get that. I mean, you got to go through a bonding, I guess, agency that's just bonded or whatever it is. So they help you get a bond.
But what if you were to say, pretty please? Yeah,
well, it's hard to do that whenever you're dealing with, you're making decisions for the government, and you're not always going to be there. Every 4 years you could have a whole new commission and a chairman.
Right.
So the bonds is my understanding. Now, I don't know everything about it. I'm learning. I depend on our chief administration officer, our attorney, county attorney, and those people to lead us in the right way to make sure that we're complying with the law and doing what we're supposed to do.
So let's say worst case scenario happens tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Federal judge comes down and says, "Hey, you guys need to make this happen." Mm-hmm. Then what?
Well, we just have to figure out how to make it happen, but we'll probably have to wind up cutting jobs. Nobody wants to do that, but if that happened, you'd have to figure out a way to make that happen.
Could you imagine getting fired so this way you can house more criminals?
That's crazy.
That is wild.
I agree with you.
That is so wild. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I guess, I mean, I'm just at a loss for words, man.
Yeah.
That's something.
Well, we're working and trying to. I had emailed last week myself, and I emailed our Congressman Barry Moore, Senator Britt's office, and Senator Tuberville's office, and sort of gave them a rundown of where we are and trying to figure out, hey, what can we do to get some help? How can we do it? And, there are grants out there and things like that we can start applying for, hopefully, and try to get some help, in areas. So we're going to try that as well and trying to see what we can do to be able to get those as much money as we can before we have to go to the people or go to the delegation and say, hey, this is where we are, and try to figure out what we can do. But, I speak highly of, the Congressman Moore, Senator Britt, and Senator Tuberville and our delegation, Representative Lee and Representative Sorrells and Representative Ream and Representative Klaus and Senator Chastain. And, those guys, they do a great job of trying to help our community and help the area in Houston County. And, I can't say enough about them, but I've seen them in action myself in the past 8 years I've been in office. And we ought to be very, very pleased with what they try to do and what they try to do for us. But they take a lot of hits a lot of times, too, from people, and a hard time because you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
That's one thing you learn in politics. You're not going to please everybody, make everybody happy. You want to, but you're not going to.
Yeah. No, I always talk to my family about that. It's like, hey, not everybody's going to be satisfied.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Lucifer was in heaven.
Right.
And it still wasn't enough.
Right.
And then it wasn't just him. He took a third of the angels with him after that battle. And it's like, okay, if a third of the angels and Lucifer are not satisfied in heaven, we're not going to have all the answers and make everybody happy.
Right.
That's down here on earth either.
That's
what
right.
I'm saying? So,
yep.
I guess you're in a tough set of circumstances. Now you're out in November. Ashley Enfinger comes on and takes over your place. But, what are his thoughts on this?
I don't know what his thoughts are. I mean, he's been, he's been to all the commission meetings in the past year, I think. So he's heard a lot of what's going on. I think he sees the importance of it too as well. I mean, we're bound by the law to make sure that something happens, so we can't just ignore it. And, I know Ashley's got a good business mind. He's been in business for like 25 years. And so he's got a good head on his shoulders about budgeting and doing those type things. So he'll be a go-getter and probably be able to figure things out a little bit, and be able to do things as well. So I don't know, what his, I know his thoughts are like mine. Why in the world are we having to do all this? Why can't we just put them in there and just be done? And of course, they got a right to live, appropriately and those type things, but it sort of makes it difficult to those of us out here is having to think about, well, we're having to pay for something somebody did, they committed crimes, and we're looking at getting our property taxes raised, or we're looking at paying a sales tax, or we're looking at these type things. But for me, the longer I've been in it and realizing in the law enforcement world, I think I'd rather pay a little more money to keep them in there to keep my family safe.
Yeah.
So,
it all depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can have a lot of people in the comments and say things like, oh no, they're throwing them under the jail, right? Treat them inhumanely. And it's like, well, if you're treating them inhumanely, you're not treating them as if they're not made by the same creator who created you.
Right.
And I'm not saying that we need to be, to the point where we just say, oh yeah, commit this crime and we'll let you walk free. But it's also like, hey, you deserve to be treated as a human and have living conditions that are, obviously it's a consequence. It's a horrible, horrible position. Man, I had nightmares since you and I had communicated about coming on the podcast to talk about this jail thing. I mean, I was having nightmares about being in jail or things like that. So obviously never want to go there. But for those people who end up there, I think almost anybody can end up in prison. Yeah. Anybody can end up in jail. It's just not everybody knows the law. Right. So you're breaking laws without even knowing that you're doing it. But it's also it's just, I don't know. So it's not necessarily impacting the community right now. Right. but it can potentially, if we're raising taxes.
Right.
Raising taxes isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Or if you have to let people out.
Right.
Just because of where you're at.
And I was going to get to that point.
Yeah. Both of those things are two big things. You just got to, I guess you got what I say, you got to pick your poison. Do you want to pay? Do you want to increase the revenue, help increase the revenue to keep things safer for your community? Or do you not, and you want to just let them out and, let some of them out, to get your population down. So then you're not hit with a federal fine or hit federally with something. And then you have to go in there and build one where it might cost $55 million now. And when a federal judge comes in and says, hey, you got to do this and you got a year to do it, it might cost them, because they know there's pressure on you, it might cost you $110 million.
Yeah.
So it could be double the price, so
yep.
It's a double-edged sword.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky, thank you so much for coming on, man. This is
Thank you for having
me. Fun subject to discuss, but I think it's something that's very important for the community here.
Absolutely.
Man. So thanks.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.